Okay, so before I talk about this year's WWE game, let me talk about last year's WWE game, because due to the fact that I go by a 2-year plan with wrestling games, I've spent a lot more time with this one. So now to quickly explain the 2-year plan, well, the servers are open 2 years, and if you look at the next year's game and you think, oh, there's some great features that they've added to next year's game, chances are that'll carry over to the game afterwards. So every 2 years when the servers are about ready to kick me out, I pack my bags and I move on to the next one. So the next game I'll be sinking hundreds of hours into will be 2K24. Now 2K22 was a game I was praying would be good. After going from 2K18 to 2K20 and then quickly retreating from 2K20 to 2K19, I was desperate for the future of wrestling games to not look so bleak. And I stayed on 2K19 for a lot longer than I thought, as 2K22 was delayed to allow further development. It was actually a very interesting time. There was no 2K21 in fact, because they outright cancelled it to allow more development time. So this is a very interesting case. And was it worth it? Is the game amazing? It's alright, yeah. Like, I don't think it's a game that's really changing the way wrestling games are gonna be played. Like, it just feels like the games have finally got their footing back after the monumental stumble of 2K20. And I know what you're thinking, why don't I play something like AEW Fight Forever, or any of the other indie wrestling games that are coming out? And tell you the truth, I will play them. Honestly, I love playing different wrestling games, but what I get out of the WWE wrestling games is something that really the other wrestling games just can't give me. These are the games that come the closest to matching kayfabe. Like, if we're to believe kayfabe for a second and pretend that wrestling is real, these games are the closest ones that give us that experience. From having to perfect the timing of your reversals for each move, to all the other intricacies of the combat, it's honestly a great time in my opinion. The match variety is generally pretty good as always, though I'm still hungering for some of the matches that have long since left the game, like Buried Alive matches and the like. It's a shame to see when you remember stuff that has been removed over time. But given that 2K have brought back GM mode, it's clear that they're trying to do whatever they can to respond to feedback, delaying games and adding features that they can get away with adding. It seems like they're really trying to go out of their way to give us the best game that they can. And how is GM mode? Actually pretty good in my opinion. I think it's a lot simpler than the ones from the SmackDown vs. Raw games, but I'd say that in this situation, that's a great way to start. It feels like it's something that they can expand upon with future versions of the GM mode, and I had a blast trying it out. The graphics as always are pretty good, and of course the main way that I like to use the game, the creation suite, is great as ever. There's been some tweaks here and there. One of the more notable ones I found coming from 2K19 was that now when it comes to body selection, you now can't just create this ultra customized body anymore, which I think is a downgrade, honestly. They tried to go for this approach where you just pick a body type and work from there. And don't get me wrong, they've picked a wide range of body types, but there's also situations where there isn't enough variety. Like when you go to the really large body types, you can either go for eat a couple of Whoppers, eats 3 Big Macs a day, eats 300 Big Macs a day. And it's like, okay, there needs to be some in between here. Like, this is a bit of a leap. And they also removed custom entrance creation, which, to me, that was another great thing. Listen, I may not be the prime audience for these games, as all I like to do is create custom wrestlers on this thing. And it was such a shame to see some of these features taken away. But with that said, none of the main features that, hinge my enjoyment of the game were removed, and I've been getting a lot of enjoyment just dicking around making custom wrestlers and, having crazy matches. And of course, on the gameplay front, because I suppose it matters if you're wondering if the game plays well or not. The game, if you're used to other WWE games, plays pretty darn well. I've had fun with it. I played the showcase mode, I've had great times with my friend Sam. We once again did the tradition of picking a wrestler to try and beat Brock Lesnar with. I picked Farouk, aka Ron Simmons, and And let me tell you, that match had two very different perspectives. From Sam, it was just a hopeless endeavor as he kept squishing me into oblivion. But for me, it was a heroic, fight against the inevitable as I kept clawing back. I kicked out at the last possible frame and I just screamed into the mic. Oh, it was an amazing time. And so how can I hate the game for that? The game isn't perfect. Obviously, there's stuff I'd like them to add back again. Obviously, there was stuff I wanted to have back, and stuff that I wish that they would add already, but overall, the main package is still really good, and it really gave me hope for when I was waiting for 2K23, and of course waiting for 2K24, for the future of the games, as it seemed like they were finally on a stable trajectory. Would 2K23 continue that path? Well, you'll just have to wait for that review. But overall, I'd say 2K22, well, maybe a little outdated now, given we're, on the road to 2K24, it's still a fun experience, and maybe one to check out.